We're live. It is the game plan Sunday morning, December 30th, coming up on New Year's, baby. Week 17, the finale's here already. Who would have thought? It's been a fast season, as they always are. Glad to be with you. Glad to have you with us. Dave Lochran, along for the ride with me. Ben Rasa. What's happening, Ben?
Last one, man. Yeah, it's
I know. It's
it really does fly by.
It's kind of sad. You
Yeah.
know, we're going to start a little earlier because we got 15 games to get to. But on the other side of this, and you mentioned it before we got started, there are a couple games where it's kind of just like we don't even need to talk about them at all. And not so we can make sure to get all the games in, but because we'd be doing everyone a disservice by talking about some of these games.
There's going to be, a lot of people, and I'll just get right to it. My overall theme in a week like this is let other people make mistakes. There's probably going to be someone on the Saints that's worth rostering, but I'm not going to try to figure out who that is. And there's a lot of teams like that.
I just did a draft. I do it with 8 buddies of mine. Well, 7 buddies of mine. It's an 8-person draft on the app Draft, and it was we do it each week. You know, you put some money up, and you do it each week, and I couldn't believe it. And these are guys that generally, because a lot of them play season long. Most of them, know what guys are decent plays and what aren't. But I had guys in here drafting Michael Thomas and Kamara and guys that like could easily not play or play 1 or 2 series. And I'm thinking, DraftKings definitely you have a lot more stout competition because you have to beat out a lot more people in tournaments. But I do feel like this is a good week to play cash games. There are going to be people that really go into it just playing the big names because they're in a matchup with a high total without actually digging into who's going to play. But more so, even if you get the guys right, even if you get it right and fade the guys that aren't playing, you still have to get the guys right that are playing a full 4 quarters. So it's not just getting one piece of it right. You still need to know which games teams are going to play entirely for pride and play all 4 quarters, play for a reason, play for playoff hopes, etc. There's a whole lot that goes into this slate, and that's why we're starting a little early today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the big thing that I noticed, like someone like Todd Gurley, he's injured and he's got a big red O next to him. He's not going to be owned. But people who are building quick, not that they don't check the news, most people do these days. Someone like Zeke, someone like Michael Thomas, it looks like it's all systems go. You click the game log, everything checks out. But these guys they're just not going to be, even if they're dressed and ready, they're not going to be seeing the field enough to pay off these salaries. So I'm hoping you can cut your rake basically by having people in your tournaments that just aren't paying full attention and are playing teams that have obviously a different agenda this week.
I'm with you. And that's what we're here to do.
Yep.
By the way, there's a YouTube channel that I have to show you. It's just guys doing cliff jumps off of like 200-foot cliffs into gaps between rocks like this. So you'll need to see this because I know how you react to that type of stuff.
Unsubscribe. These people. Where do we find these people?
It's amazing. I wish I had the balls to do that stuff, man.
No.
Oh, absolutely. I used to, not anymore. Now I'm like, hey, that's dangerous, man. What are you doing?
I almost got injured coming up the stairs to do the show. Like, I'm not jumping anyway. That's just, no. These people are out of control. Those videos it's too much, but good for them.
All right. Gerald Fabiano said, I think you're incorrect. The people who are not doing research will play the GPPs for big wins. They will not play cash. No, they're going to play GPPs as well. I don't disagree with that whatsoever. But there's no question that you're going to find people in the head-to-head lobby and in 3. It happens throughout the season, so it'll happen today as well. But yeah, sure, they're going to be playing tournaments as well. Why would they not? And they'll be pretty much. They're just going to be at one spot that you don't have to worry about beating. All right, Ben, let's just jump right into it then. We've got 15 games here. The only game not on this slate is Indy, Tennessee at 8:20, and then we've got no Monday Night Football either. So 15 of the 16 games are on this one, and we're going to start with Tampa Bay and Atlanta. The Bucs hosting the Falcons. Jameis Winston. There was a lot of hope that maybe, okay, this guy's got something to play for. You're looking at trying to get some money in your pocket after this season, a tumultuous season with benchings and with poor play, and then with some good play and with a bad record, and with Ryan Fitzpatrick playing better than you at times. But now we're seeing that Dirk Cotter saying, we don't know if Winston's going to play all of the snaps. They want to get Ryan Griffin in. I could see this as a first half, second half deal. And actually, the way I'm treating some of these games, you actually mentioned this on SiriusXM as on the guest spot last night, and I had mentioned it in the segment before you came on. I think some of these games need to be treated like a week 3 of the preseason, where it's like the dress rehearsal, and they'll get some snaps. They might play a half and then not play the rest of the game. So where do you see Tampa Bay here? Because I do think it's a good spot for Winston and Evans, but a very sketchy one as well, based on the fact that they might not play the whole game.
This is a tricky one. There's some games where we clearly know the motivation both ways, whether teams are like the Bills or teams like the Chiefs. These two are murky. I'm with you. Cash, no chance. But if you want to say, you know what, I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to take Jameis and Mike Evans. And if he gets off to a strong start, maybe he holds control of the game. But you just want to know that there's a real chance that, especially if he's struggling, that Ryan Griffin could see some snaps, especially in the second half. And that adds a lot of volatility. So it's not my favorite spot. And then on the other side, obviously the Falcons have been super disappointing. I wanted to play Brian Hill. I thought that was a really good spot. It looks like Tevin Coleman is going to play, so that makes it a big mess. I thought maybe him and Julio would actually sit out this game. It looks like the Falcons are playing it relatively straight up, and they're a team, despite not having anything to play for, it's a good spot objectively if you do think you all see 4 quarters.
Well, and you also have, if you look at so one thing I do take into consideration, depending on the coach, in week 17 is coming in with, or coming home, bringing some titles to your city, right? And looking at, some of these, Julio Jones right now leads the league in receiving yards, right? He leads the league in receiving yards with 1539. DeAndre Hopkins and Mike Evans both have around 14 and a quarter. So it's not a crazy thought to assume that, they could be, if Julio didn't play today, both of these guys could finish above him. Hopkins would need 114 if Julio finished with nothing. Evans would need 121. I don't know if if Julio goes out there and just they feed him in the first half to get him the receiving title. It's not a crazy thought. He doesn't have an injury designation. It's a phenomenal matchup. Like, this is one of those spots where it's a little sketchy, not going to play him in cash. But to me, both Julio and Mike Evans have considerable upside here. And, as we saw, the Bucs weren't afraid last year to force Evans the ball in week 17 to get him over 1,000 receiving yards. He finished with 1,001 yards, caught 5 of 15 receptions. There are spots where they will feed a player a ball in order to get them where they need to be at the end of the year. I just don't know if it'll be a half or more that they play, but both of them, man, they're in really good spots.
I don't think the ownership will be there because of kind of what we've outlined in terms of there's a real risk that it's also, and we don't predict injuries, obviously, but you got to understand in week 17, when it's a meaningless game, if Julio comes up just even minorly lame, he's not coming back. It's over. It's not like these games where it's like, we need you out there. Like Antonio Brown, perfect example. We were talking before the show, and we'll get to that game. Obviously, if the Steelers were already eliminated, I think he would already be ruled out. It's a situation like that. These narratives they play in, you just take on added risk when it's a team like the Falcons who clearly underachieved this year.
Yeah, the Falcons and the Bucs have both underachieved. So I don't know exactly what to make of it. So let's do this. We'll just give our plays here under the assumption that they are going to play a full game, but with the caveat, with the disclaimer that, hey, there's a very good, because this game, to me, I'm glad we're getting it out of the way early, Ben. To me, this is one of the trickiest games.
Agree 100%. Yep.
Okay. A lot of them, we have a pretty good understanding, a pretty good lean on where it's going to go, right? This one, I feel a lot different about. But it sucks because where there might be some games where I say, look, even though I don't know how this game is going to shake out, I still don't have interest in playing any of these guys. With this one, I don't know how it's going to shake out, but I do have interest. So let's just give the guys that we think in the event that they do play, we really like.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I could eliminate one game from the slate, it would be this one. Julio, to me, is one of the better GPP targets this week. There's a million top-end receivers that are playing in games where they have to win. That's going to suck up a ton of ownership. So you're going to be able to get him at a discount, and if he does play all four, it's a great spot. Peyton Barber on the Bucs is one of my favorite cheap running backs. He's in the three, I think he's 3,600. He just does this thing. I don't see any reason why his workload would really change in a week like this. So there are spots. I do worry a little about, the secondary options just because, again, it's just a very narrow window when you have other variants coming into play.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Like guys like Humphreys for me, I don't feel I need to take the risk. And the simple reason is I don't. Has he had some solid games? Yeah, no question. But I'm going to target upside here, Ben. And I want to target guys that, in the event that they do, let's say they only play a half or three quarters. I know Julio and Evans can still give me 30 fantasy points in that span. I'm not saying it's probable, but I know it's possible. And if they play four quarters, I think you have a significant edge just based on the fact that, as you pointed out, we don't know what's going on with this game. So I like Julio a lot. I like Evans a lot. They are risky. Putting it out there again. I'm sure we'll get some tweets if Julio plays a quarter. Hey, asshole! You said you liked Julio. Yeah, I do, but I also am very aware that things could go wrong. So those are the guys here. I even think Winston. There are some concerns, of course, but high upside spot for him. You mentioned Barber, very cheap. What I wanted to ask you is, when you're looking at these cheap backs, and we'll get to more of them throughout the show, like on DraftKings, you have Peyton Barber at 3,600. He's been the quote unquote lead back all season long. So if they do play their starters, we know he's going to get plenty of work. Would you rather him or a Dwayne Washington, who is expected to get the work, most of the work for New Orleans, but who really knows and hasn't had any involvement all season long? Like, where would you go there? Because I know we're going to get these questions because he's minimum salary.
Yeah. So obviously it is a tough question, but for me, the answer is clear. Like, this is what I was alluding to earlier. I'm going to let other people infer what the Saints second team can do on offense. I have no idea what Washington, I just want to, in the Saints with particular, I've seen this with Teddy Bridgewater. It's not like he's replacing Drew Brees and everything else is the same. It's the same with Dwayne Washington. It's not like, oh, he's going in for Kamara and the offensive line and the weapons on the outside are staying the same. They're all going to be gone. So this is a totally different offense. I have no idea what that guy's going to give you. I know that Peyton Barber, if he gets the work, we have a range of outcomes based on what he's done for the rest of the year that I feel much more comfortable with. And I'll let other people say, you know what? I'm going to chase this Saints guy who, like I said, I know nothing about what we could expect from a team that's really going to be, not even close to what we're normally seeing with a team like the Saints.
Yeah, no question. And we'll get to that game in just a minute.
For sure.
But first, let's talk about the Giants in Dallas. We've got the New York Giants this is how you know it's week 16, by the way, or week 17, Ben. Here's how you know it's week 17. The New York Giants are 7-point favorites.
Yeah.
In any game. 39.5-point total. There are 6 games with a 41.5-point or lower total, and only 2 games at 50 or higher. One of them is the Atlanta-Tampa Bay game. So, and if you look at the spreads, Ben, I'd mentioned this on Awesemo Radio yesterday. There is one game on this slate with a spread that is less than 5.5 points. So, and that is Tampa Atlanta, which is why the game is so difficult, right? Like, close spread, high total, good players, 2 of them with the potential to hit the title, receiving title. That's why.
Yep. No, it's a weird, like we'll get into all that. There's some massive favorites across the board, and I have a couple things to say about that as we get on. But this is one, you said it. right off the top, Dallas is one of the teams I'm omitting completely from the slate. I have
Me too.
zero interest. They are going to be resting. Who knows who may see some time, but I'm not trying to figure that out. There's enough other teams that I know what they're going to do. So right off the bat, no Dallas for me.
It is a preseason game, except the coaches aren't looking to see who they're going to cut. They're just biding their time and hoping everyone gets through it fully healthy for the playoffs. It's that simple.
Yep.
When it comes to Rod Smith or Darius Jackson, I don't see the need. I certainly don't see a need to play anyone that's catching balls from Cooper Rush. It's that simple, Ben.
It seems like a sound strategy. And like I said, people are going to reach for all these guys because they're all so cheap. But again, these are games where the team's sole goal, you said it, is to end the game as quickly as possible. Like, just keep the clock moving, get the game over with, and let's move on to wild card weekend. So yeah, I'm with you. The Giants, for me, though, that's a tricky spot. I have a gut feeling that we may see a little. I think it's in the range of possibilities that Saquon's workload is slightly reduced today.
I think it's going to be elevated.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to lock down Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, if you're a smart organization with smart coaching, you don't even play the guy at all because running backs have such a short overall lifespan in the league. No, but I think Saquon Barkley is going to get a heap of work today.
Wow.
So we're on different pages to start the show. I like it.
I like it too. Yeah, and it's not to say, I want to be clear, I have some Saquon in lineups because he's explosive, and if he does get the work, he is, with the lack of top end running backs that are playable, he stands out for sure. But if his ownership is massive, and I think it will be for that reason, I do worry that you said it. I mean, I know teams don't think like this, but these are carries that he could use in another year in a better spot. Like, every little bit helps. The mileage is a real thing. I almost, God, it's just, imagine if he ever got hurt in a game like this. Like, how dumb could you be? But if they are going to put him out there against Dallas's possible second team, it's hard not to like him.
It is, especially as 7-point favorites.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just see a lot of ways this could go right. Look, you got a excuse me, you got a home crowd that needs something to root for, whoever decides to show up. Dallas not playing their starters. And Barkley is just, look, he has 87 receptions at the position. McCaffrey's got 106, so he's not passing that. But there are records that he could break. And I'm reading this. Evan Silva laid it out nicely in his matchups. He's 108 yards shy of Ezekiel Elliott for third most total yards all time by a rookie. 253 behind Edgerrin James for second. And he needs 14 receptions to tie Anquan Boldin for most ever by a rookie, regardless of position. So, yes, it would take a lot to get, to pass Edgerrin James, to pass Anquan Boldin. But it's not crazy to think in a useless, meaningless game at home with Odell Beckham out that Barkley just gets fed, like absolutely fed. And my thinking too is, even if he doesn't, right? And by the way, let me say, I think you can fade Barkley because there's a 15-game slate. There's a lot of things we can do here. You could go to Melvin Gordon if you, knowing that he's going to get a heap of work, unless maybe Kansas City goes up way early and they just sit him in the second half. That's possible for Melvin too, and we'll get into that. But I think Barkley, at his price point, which is very reasonable, I think they're going to feed him. And even if they don't, I just feel like he's so safe against the Dallas Cowboys second team. That's where I'm coming from here, Ben.
Oh no, I totally get it, and I'm just going to build. This is the luxury, not that I'm reducing the volume a little this week, but I am making enough lineups where I have a handful where I say, you know what, I'm building with the mindset that the Giants are going to try to get him as much work as possible. I build accordingly. Then I have other teams where I'm saying, you know what, I'm building with the mindset that the Giants are going to say, this guy is going to obviously be the centerpiece. Let's get him into the offseason right. And not that he's not going to play, but we work in Gallman a little more. We keep the clock moving. And so I'll have a little of both. It's just that kind of week. I do feel more comfortable. We'll get to Christian McCaffrey next. I feel a lot more comfortable with someone like Saquon than him. So it's limited options if you're looking to pay up at running back.
Man, I thought you were going to say you're a lot more comfortable in McCaffrey. I'm thinking, wow, okay,
No,
we're really on different pages here. Yeah, because I can't, I don't have faith in McCaffrey at all. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play much. That's the next game on the list. McCaffrey needs 165 receiving yards to get that 1,000 receiving, 1,000 rushing. I don't think they're going to go for that.
no.
But if they do, we're going to be in a lot of trouble by fading him. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it would be in line with what I've been doing. Yeah, he's unbelievable. I just another one where it really seems, and they've alluded to this. I have to imagine that they say, okay, with everything, Cam is hurt. Let's just get Christian McCaffrey out. The guy plays 100% of the snaps normally. I cannot imagine. Again, not that it's not a black and white situation. I'm not saying he's going to play 0% either. But if he plays 65% of the snaps, you're looking at a reduced workload. And the prices are not reflective of that. I'm not going to chase these things. And if one burns me, I'll have to live with it.
Yep, exactly. By the way, Adam Schefter has posted some incentives that players have. We're going to talk about some of these throughout the show because there's some good ones, man. There are some good ones. Oh yeah, this is some good stuff here. Aside from Barkley, do you have any interest in Shepard or Ingram here?
Those are really the only guys, I mean, you can really look to. Ingram's in a weird spot just because he's not a cheap tight end, but he's not with the big three either. So I wouldn't mind that. And Sterling Shepard did show some life last week, but honestly, I don't have a ton of either. I think last man in, I could see it because someone on the Giants is going to have to move the ball. But I don't think it's a great play altogether.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea of Ingram, but there are some tight ends in really, really, really good spots.
Yeah.
And I just don't I don't think Ingram, I'll put it to you this way, Ben. I don't think Ingram is cheap enough to take those savings over some of the top options at the position today. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you. It's just, it's a play that I wouldn't say, man, I don't see that at all because he could have a fine game.
Sure.
But there's an opportunity cost, and my lineups didn't really fall to him anyway.
Yep, me neither. Okay, let's move on if you're okay with it.
Yep.
New Orleans at home against the Carolina Panthers. We've kind of alluded to this game a little bit already. Normally you'd see a much higher total here, even though there was a high total in this game last time they faced a couple weeks ago, and I think we all knew that it was poised to come under with the way both offenses had been playing. The Saints are still 7.5-point favorites, but you got a 43 total here, and that tells you all you need to know, really. And I don't know what to expect. What I do know is that Teddy Bridgewater will be starting at quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. I know that guys like Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, if they do play at all, are going to be very limited. And it's pretty much that simple. But even if it was just Teddy Bridgewater replacing, even if it's just Bridgewater replacing Breeze, like Michael Thomas becomes a far less appealing option. Actually, not in play at all for me. But that's not, if Breeze isn't playing, it's silly to assume that the rest of this offense is going to see the regular share of snaps, and it's that simple.
This is the easiest game on the slate for me. I don't have anything from either side. It's two wildly unknowns. The Saints are not an unknown in the sense they've pretty much come out and said, they've locked up the number one seed. They're going to rest, and that's smart. And then Carolina, we just talked about. I'm not messing around with them. They're starting Kyle Allen, I believe. That's not good. I can't believe he's in the NFL, to be honest. So it's just a situation. Someone is going, in every game, someone from the Panthers will probably have an effective game, and vice versa for the Saints. Good luck figuring out that roulette situation. There's 15 games total. I'll look to the other 14 before I prioritize a game like this.
Yep, 100%. As earlier mentioned, if anybody, maybe I would take a look at Washington because he's literally the bare minimum. Mm-hmm. It doesn't get any cheaper than Washington. And maybe he has himself a decent game. and gets a lot of work. That would be it. I have nobody else. He's 45 on FanDuel, 3K on DraftKings, and even that, Ben, is a considerable risk. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
all I got.
there's so many other value running backs that I like better than him. That's the problem with the guy like that. If he was the only guy down there, I'd probably give him a closer look.
No question. I'll give you a value running back I like in this next game. Now, he's not value at 3K or even 4K, but Sonny Michel is $5,200 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Sonny Michel is, what is he, 72, which is too pricey, but 5,200 on DraftKings to me is way too cheap here. Look, I know that he is not a pass catching back, and that kind of sucks, no question. But as monster favorites here, right? They're huge favorites right now. The New England Patriots are 14 and a half point favorites at home against the Jets. Sonny Michel coming off a 18 carry, 116 yard, 1 touchdown performance against Buffalo, a much better defense. And the way I see it, Rob Gronkowski is on his way out. I mean, he's on his last leg. Josh Gordon is gone, and Tom Brady certainly doesn't have what he used to. So to me, the game plan here, I know it's tough to predict Bill Belichick, but I don't see why you wouldn't just feed Sonny Michel the ball in this game like they did against Buffalo, where Tom Brady ended up passing only 24 times and completing 13 passes for 126 yards. I see it as another dose of heavy run game and Sonny Michel getting upwards of 22 carries. What are you doing with the Patriots in this one, if anything?
They're always a tricky team, obviously, but I'm with you. I think this is a clear spot that you prioritize the running game, and if it's truly the running game, Sonny Michel is clearly ahead of James White and Burkhead in terms of carries. We know that he's not a factor in the passing game. You could look to Edelman, I guess, but really the only guy that I have even decent exposure to is Sonny Michel, and it's it's never great to take a guy because for him to get there, he needs to score. There's no doubt about that. And he probably needs to get 100 yards. But this is a perfect spot. We saw Jamal Williams take apart the Jets defense. It's not a good spot. They're in Foxborough. Massive, massive underdogs. I would expect the Patriots to be running the ball, especially late in this game, to just lock up the bye and kind of get the rest next week.
Yep, absolutely. Ricky says you're not afraid of Rex Burkhead eating into half the carries and getting the work in a blowout. Well, I mean, there's always the concern in the blowout, but no, I think Sonny Michel gets the first crack at it. And keep in mind, if you're looking at last week, yeah, Rex Burkhead saw 13 carries, but Michel still saw 18 carries. I mean, James White still saw 8 carries. They just ran the ball down the Bills' throats, right? Like there were a ton of combined carries here. Like 40 carries between these backs, 39 carries. So no, I think Sonny Michel still gets a healthy workload. And this is just one of those spots where if he had 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, of course, it's the Patriots. As you said, Patriots are always tricky. There's always some concern that it doesn't play out as we expect it to. But here's the difference. Sonny Michel has 20 carry upside, easy 100+ yard upside. Wouldn't be surprised if he scored twice, and he's 5,200. So I'm not paying a premium for a guy. Like I'm not paying a Melvin Gordon price tag and for a guy that might lose work to somebody else. I'm getting a pretty decent discount on him. I think 52 is a very fair price, and that's where I stand on him.
That helps a lot too because the blowout that's a more than reasonable question. That's a real concern. There's no doubt about it. But at 5,200, there's a real chance that Sonny Michel in 3 quarters has the game that you need anyway. It's not like he has to pay off an 9K price tag where it's like, geez, if it gets out of hand and they don't give him the work late, it's almost impossible for him to get there. If he finds the end zone early, you're going to be in decent shape with the floor anyway. And I think he's the clear favorite in terms of Patriots to score in this game.
Yep. Pretty much. Chuck says, to me, with all the RB value, I'm not chasing unpredictable running back rotations. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Again, I don't actually think this is, I don't think it's as as unpredictable as you think, though. That's all I'm saying. Like, you know, even since Rex Burkhead has been back, when did he return? Week 13. He saw 7, 4, 4, and 13 carries. Obviously, more involved in the passing game. But even Michelle has seen 17, 20, 13 in a game they were playing from behind, and then 18. So he's still the lead back there. That's not in doubt. So that's where I'm getting at. But that doesn't mean Burkhead can't still have a good game, and he's dirt cheap. Both of the Patriots, there's no question that with the state of their passing attack, that they're definitely going to lean more on the run, man. So I would look at I would look at them a little bit differently than we have in the past. This is not a high-powered aerial attack anymore, and that's what I'm saying.
And the Jets are the type of team, not that I'm certainly not saying they're going to go in there and play, but the Jets always, they see him twice a year. They play him somewhat tough. I think the strategy for the Patriots is just overpower them. And the Jets are a defense that can certainly be overpowered via the run game. I don't think they're dropping Brady back 40 times in this one, regardless of the score.
Agree. I don't know. Yeah, they'd probably end up losing if they did that.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, there's a couple teams today. Of course, anything can happen. We've seen it. I would be stunned. This is towards the top of teams where it's like they're just not losing this game. They need the game desperately.
At home. Oh, yeah. On the other side, though, Sam Darnold's thrown for 594 yards, 5 touchdowns, and no interceptions over his last 2 games. They're going to come out there and play for pride in a divisional game, try and get that spoiler role in there. Not even that they'd spoil anything, but just, beat the Patriots heading into the offseason. Why not? That's not to say that I have supreme confidence in any of these guys.
That's the problem.
But you won $50,000 last week on the back of Robbie Anderson and McGuire and that stack between the Jets and Green Bay. Are you going back to a guy like Anderson whose target counts since week 7 when he's played have been 10, 7, 5, 7, 7, 11, and 13? Do you have interest in him? Do you have interest in a guy like Elijah McGuire, who is clearly getting the bulk of the work in the run game and has seen 4+ targets over his last 3 games? What are you doing here?
Elijah McGuire is a guy, and there's some bias here. I've been waiting for this. I was glad to capitalize on it last week. I like him. I think he's going to be a really good player. I'm going to keep playing him in spots like this to finish the year. He's dynamic. He can catch passes, and the backfield is his right now. Robbie Anderson, though, and this is mostly, we're going to have to check in, obviously, at the site. We have ownership projections, and I will be looking at them. If Robbie Anderson is projected to be really popular, and I think he's going to be, I'm coming in underweight. We've seen the floor with this guy, and I know the targets have been there. The Patriots, they like to take away what you're doing. I wouldn't be stunned to see them really allocate a lot of resources to just stopping Robbie Anderson and making the Jets move the ball elsewhere. So that's a guy that I'm taking a stand against, despite his recent form, which has been outrageously good.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that at all. You're gonna see a lot of Stephen Gilmore.
Yeah, well,
it's and I know. Look, it's not to say that a guy like Anderson with speed can't burn him, but I still think this is a tough spot. If Anderson wasn't going to be popular, though, I would have a lot of interest in him because he has that blow up potential.
No, right. He's one of those guys where it's just the range of outcomes. I always use Tyreek Hill as the example. It's, you're willing to take the big stand on a fade when he's popular because even as good as Tyreek Hill is, his floor is always really low just because of the way he plays. And Robbie Anderson is in a similar situation. They've been playing better. They've also been at home. This is in Foxborough. I think that's a big difference. I have a feeling that Darnold struggles, certainly more than we've seen lately. He's actually looked really good. So tempering my expectations on the Jets this week.
All right. Right now on our Awesemo.com ownership projections have Robbie Anderson around 14, highest owned on DraftKings. Obviously, these are projections, and around 22 or so on FanDuel for the main slate. So that is, on a 15-game slate, that's pretty heavy ownership. The only thing I would say, though, is with so many games being on this slate and so many mistakes to be made, I'm not as worried about ownership this week as I normally would be. I don't know. Yeah, there will be a couple players, but I don't think you're going to see just like massive chalk as much as we've seen in previous weeks.
It's a good point. Yeah, 15 games, and that goes for both sides of the spectrum. You're not going to see massive ownership. At the same time, you don't need to go do something insane to get a one percenter.
Right.
There's so many options. If you just take a against the grain play, he's going to be 1%. There's no reason to reach. You want to find the right balance. And on a 15 game slate, there's so many options to choose from.
Yes, there are. Anything else on this game?
No, I'm not. This is a middling game for me. I think there's some plays to be had, but overall, I really don't have that much.
Yeah, I don't think it's a must either. Hey, by the way, Yahoo's got the NFL $1 million baller running again today for week 17. $1 million prize pool, $250,000 in overlay, $20 to enter, 10 entry max, right? So you're not playing against guys that have 150 entries in there either. Right now, there's 28,000 filled out of 37,500. So still a long way to go before that fills up, and about an hour and 45 minutes. So if you haven't checked out Yahoo yet, you haven't checked out these wild overlay contests that they're doing for basketball and, of course, for football. They're literally running them every day. I would definitely advise you or recommend checking this out. Really cool contest with considerable overlay. And some of them actually might not even fill, which says even more about it. Basketball has been filling quick, but we'll see where the football one goes. Either way, if you haven't signed up yet, use the code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, when you sign up, and you'll get $30 deposit bonus on any deposit, $30 or more. So use the code AWESEMO, sign up on Yahoo, and hop in the $1 million baller, $250,000 in overlay, and $1 million prize pool for week 17. All right, Ben, let's move it on here. Houston and Jacksonville. I'm not very interested. The Texans do have a lot to play for, though. Their seeding could move dramatically. Like if they were to lose this game, they could fall to 6th in the AFC.
It's just the situation. And you know what? No, they need to play. There's no doubt about it. It's the Jaguars. I would hope that they could find a way at home to win this game against Bortles, the return of Blake Bortles this week. I don't have much. I wouldn't fault people for going here. It's not the worst spot in the world. You saw firsthand Deshaun Watson he makes some plays. He makes some plays, and then he makes some horrible plays, which I'll get to in terms of you can always target the defense against him. I did it with the Eagles last week. I wouldn't fault anyone for playing the Jaguars defense as a real aggressive tourney play. And then on the other side, it's the same story. Obviously, the Texans defense is one of the best on the slate, in my opinion. I do have someone that I prefer up there, but it's Blake Bortles, who I'll be honest, I have a tiny sliver of him just because he's 4,400. But man, it's tough to really find plays. I couldn't get the room for DeAndre Hopkins. Did you have any room for him in terms of top tier?
It's really tough for me. No, not right now. Here's what I see. I could see Hopkins having a good game, but not a game that you can't fade. And this is where look, he's never had 100 yards against Jalen Ramsey coverage. Actually, he's had over 80 yards twice in this matchup, and they play twice a year. Now, he has found the end zone a decent amount of times, but I'm looking for a big game here, and I just don't know. I just don't know if it's going to be there. So Ramsey and from everything I've seen, Ramsey is not backing down from this. Like this guy, regardless of how nutty he's been all season long, it doesn't seem like a game where he's trying to lay down. So I think this is a spot where I worry a little bit. He said, what did he say? He said, I'm sure he'll make a good catch again this Sunday, but it's going to be a good battle. Blah, blah, blah. Where there was something else he said here that was basically like, I'm playing 100% and I'm going to be coming at him.
Yeah. And he's a clown, but he's great. He's an unbelievable. It's not an easy cover, matchup for someone like Hopkins, regardless of how Jalen Ramsey does like to spew a lot of nonsense, but still.
Exactly. But it's a tough matchup, and I just think some of these other top flight guys have better spots, but more so just have a higher ceiling. And I know Hopkins has a massive ceiling, but in this matchup, I do think it's curbed a little bit. That's all.
I mean, you can't get them all. obviously. So you got to live with something in a game like this where, again, it's an ugly situation. I do think the Texans win this game like most do.
Sure.
But I don't know how much we needed a 13 for 160 and 2 from DeAndre Hopkins to get there. And, like you said, when you're priced up there, it's not how many points he scores. It's how many points he scores in relation to all the other options that you can use that money for. So if he has 22 and Juju has 40 or one of the other guys, it's not really going to help you regardless.
Right. No question. Yeah. If Tyreek Hill goes off against Oakland, or if a lot of these guys are capable of doing it, even down below, if Mike Evans, all of these guys have some risk, no question. And Hopkins, at least, should play a 1:00 game. You're going to play all 4 quarters. So there are some benefits to looking at a DeAndre Hopkins. I just think his ceiling is a bit lower than normal. And I still respect this Jacksonville secondary despite the struggles that we've seen throughout the year. That's all. All right. Well, let's keep going here. We do have some news, by the way. It looks like actually, I'll wait until I'll wait on that. Wait till we get to the game, actually. And do you want to mention anything else other than Bortles? Who I don't think you're crazy. I don't think you're crazy getting the sprinkle of him in there at basically minimum salary if he has to chuck it.
Yeah, I mean, he has some mobility. That there's not much to say. If you're playing enough lineups, I think it's worth pairing him with. I have him with DD, and say, you know what, maybe they can connect. But overall, there's just much better spots. Obviously, I don't think that's what you should do in cash by any stretch.
Right. And the last thing I'll say about Hopkins, if there was one reason I'd say, you know what, screw the matchup, it's the fact that there's no Demaryius Thomas. We don't know what's going to happen with QT, and he's been banged up anyway. Will Fuller's been on the IR. Like you're looking at guys like former practice squad guys like DeAndre Carter and Vincent Smith, that are going to be playing alongside Hopkins. So the volume's going to be there. The volume will be there. There's no question.
It's one of those situations, though, like if you're the Jaguars and you see you got Vincent Smith and that other person who I don't know who that is, like you're going to be allocating a ton of help to Ramsey in this situation. Make Lamar Miller and DeAndre Carter and Vincent Smith beat you. Like it's going to be a lot of volume, but it's going to be inefficient.
Absolutely. Or make Lamar Miller beat you, who might not be at 100% and isn't exactly the most efficient back either. So yeah, you're right. All right, let's talk Green Bay and Detroit. Let's make it happen. Green Bay Packers coming off a thrilling road victory over the New York Jets. A game that finished 44-38 and saw Aaron Rodgers throw for 442 yards, rushed for 2 touchdowns, threw for 2 touchdowns, had a monster 45.88 fantasy point game on DraftKings. It was huge, Ben. Now he gets a home draw against a bad Lions team. You obviously have Jamal Williams, who will be shouldering the load for the Packers, and he saw all of the work in the backfield last week. I mean, basically all of it. I know he checked out for a concussion, but he returned and basically played all of the snaps in the backfield. And then you have somebody like Devontae Adams, who we've kind of said it all year. The consistency of this guy has been second to none, right? The targets, the receptions, the 13 receiving touchdowns, the 20+ fantasy points in what feels like every single game he plays. So, playing for pride, nothing else on the line for Packers in a disappointing season. But they showed us last week that they aren't just going to stop playing football either.
I think the firing helped, to be honest. They kind of gave them a shot in the arm just to galvanize.
McCarthy was a black cloud over that organization, no question.
Like Rodgers looked, I watched that game intently because I had the huge stacks with them. Rodgers looked like he was having fun out there. He was excited. They were playing hard in a certainly a meaningless game. I expect the Packers to finish on a high note here. Jamal Williams, obviously Aaron Jones not walking through that door. You can go to him, Devontae Adams. I have no problem with that. Third guy, I guess, we got to see what's up with Randall Cobb and whatnot. I don't have it in front of me. If MVS looks like he's going to get some work, You could use that as a cheapie, but he's a distant third. For me, it's just the two main Packers weapons. I think at home against a lifeless Lions team, they make for really solid plays this week as usual.
Cray Atkins says, I think I'm running Detroit defense on FanDuel.
Oof.
That's a ballsy approach, sir.
I can't get there. It's. I'll say this: Rodgers is just really tough because he doesn't throw. I mean, if you get pressure to him, he can fumble, but he never throws picks, so it's hard to get a big play against him.
Yeah, I mean, he's thrown 2 interceptions on the year, and
That's
never throws interceptions at home.
yeah, like ever. It's insane.
Yeah, he hasn't been the same Rodgers this year. I get that, but he has 5 total turnovers on the season. Only 3 at home, 3 turnovers, or I'm sorry, 2 total turnovers at home. You're right. It's unless you're returning a kick or a punt for a touchdown, this is a very difficult spot to actually get sizable production from the Detroit defense, because you know what, Bam? Not allowing points is not important. I mean, a damn field goal knocks you down 3 points.
None of that. It's all irrelevant. Andrew Barron says that every time we're on the show, and he's right. The difference between, I don't have the exact numbers, but like, you give up points in the teens to points in the 30s. It's a couple points. It's one extra sack or an interception. You're looking for defenses that are going to force turnovers, make big plays, splash plays. That doesn't scream targeting the Packers. It screams targeting like Blake Bortles or Rosen or someone like that.
Yep, no doubt. You could see a team allow 7 points and have literally a third of the points that a team that allowed 21 points has, because that team returned a touchdown and had 6 sacks.
Exactly.
It's that simple. So yeah, I'm not going there, and I think there are plenty of other defenses that are discounted that you can look to. Just looking at defenses here, you have in terms of pricing, the Lions are 3,300. The Giants are 3,300. Give me the Giants against Dallas's backups at home, not on the road, not at Lambeau Field, missing a bunch of play. I just think, and that's on FanDuel. There are plenty of cheap defenses in spots where opposing teams aren't even playing starters, and the Giants are one of them. You don't have to like them. I certainly don't. But instead of being 7.5-point road dogs against Aaron Rodgers and the first unit, you're 7-point home favorites against this team's second unit that won't have Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, and Dak Prescott on the field. To me, the decision's pretty simple, regardless of ownership. So,
yeah, no, I'm with you.
Just one man's opinion. Anyway, round it out for me. Where do you stand in terms of prioritizing these Green Bay guys and anyone on Detroit if you have them?
So I think, with the lack of firepower at running back, Jamal Williams is a guy that I certainly made room for on some teams. Devontae Adams is in a crowded, that top-end wide receivers are loaded. And as incredibly consistent as he's been, and I'm talking ceiling, it really hasn't been immense. Most weeks it's nice to have him, but the slate is not over when you don't use him. So I have him in plenty of spots, but I also feel fine if you want to go to someone like Tyreek Hill, where it's like, okay, if this guy connects, you're not looking at 24, you're looking at 42. Like, that's a little different. The only guy on Detroit that I even have remote interest in is Kenny Golladay. It's just a volume thing. He's the last man standing. He's played some tough matchups, and he's holding his own, more than holding his own, in my opinion. Makes some real good catches. He's a big guy. But, man, Stafford is hurt, obviously, and that offense is in shambles.
I'm with you on that, and that's about as far as I'm willing to take this matchup as well. And even with Jamal Williams, I don't have an issue with Jamal Williams, but in terms of pricing, it's a little tough. But at the same time, he's going to get all the work. So if you want someone that is going to see exclusivity in the backfield, Jamal Williams is the guy. And you know what, Ben? Sometimes it's as simple as that on a Week 17 slate with so many question marks, so many unknowns. The guy that's going to get all the work is in play no matter what. And that's what it comes down to.
That's what I kept it pretty simple with him. He's going to catch some passes. He's certainly viable to score, and I'm not going to reach when I can take that, and it's pretty comfortable.
All right. Buffalo at home hosting the Miami Dolphins here. They are 5-point favorites, I believe. 5-point favorites, a robust 39.5-point total. I have nobody from Miami. I will say, though, that this is, to me, an interesting spot for Josh Allen. The Miami Dolphins allow a lot of rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks. Allen had a rough week against the Bills, but as we talked about, like, Belichick will emphasize taking out the best player that makes the plays. And if you take Josh Allen out of the game, you literally have nothing, Ben. Like, Josh Allen this season has 536 rushing yards in 11 games, while LaShawn McCoy has 488 rushing yards in 13 games. Allen's going to finish as this team's leading rusher this year and play 2 fewer games than their starting running back. I mean, he is the if Josh Allen, as we've seen all season long, if you take him out of the game, you have absolutely nothing. And I don't think Miami's going to. I don't even know if they care about this game. To me, Josh Allen's an interesting play, and even if you don't like him, guys like Robert Foster are big time playmakers. He would have had he lost the ball in the sun last game. Beat Gilmore, would have had a touchdown there. He's been impressive, and the one thing I like about him is he's targeted downfield on almost every target. You're looking at 20 plus yards almost every time he gets a look. So I do like the upside there. That's pretty much where I'm at here, though.
I'm pretty much in line. I have no interest in the Dolphins. I think this is a horrible spot for them for a lot of reasons. One of the primary is they're just going up to Buffalo. It's just not a spot. I think they come in motivated at all. I expect the Bills to win this game. And the Bills have been so bad that there's no disruption in Week 17. They're just playing. Like, they've got a young quarterback, a young team in general. They're not going to be taking their foot off the gas. They're just playing. So Josh Allen, Foster, as you mentioned, these are guys that I did go to in some spots. He torched the Dolphins the first time. He was running all over the place against them. And obviously we know that with his ability to run, it brings upside. And if there's one thing he does, he really can throw a nice deep ball. If he gets some time, him and Foster, we saw them connect for beauty, a few weeks back. I don't mind it. And I don't think the Dolphins defense, they're a little banged up. I don't think Howard is playing. I think it's all systems go. It's not a jam him in, but for a cheap quarterback, he's flat 6K on DraftKings. Makes for a fine play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he has two rushing touchdown upside in a game like this. And obviously for Allen to produce and give you what you need, he needs to rush. There's no question. He needs to give you the rushing yards. Quickly, before we move on, I've seen a couple questions in chat. I think they're fine questions, so we'll answer it. Assuming McKenzie isn't carted off for the third straight game in which he returns after being carted off twice. Who gets carted off in a game twice in 2 games, and then returns to the game? I don't get it. It's ridiculous. But he's seen 7 targets or more in 3 straight games. Zay Jones has seen 9 targets in 3 of his last 4 games. And we talked about Robert Foster, whose target share has kind of been a little bit more erratic, but his upside is definitely the highest of all of these guys just based on yards per target. What do you make of Zay Jones and McKenzie before we move on here? Both pretty cheap.
Yeah, I think they're fine, reasonable plays. Robert, if I had to pick one, it still would be Foster, just because I'm looking for really the home run. Zay Jones, he connected on a big play, found the end zone. And McKenzie, yeah, if he can stay on the field, like you said, that would help. But I don't think you can. I wouldn't suggest stacking them all or something like that, just because Josh Allen doesn't have enough passing yards to go around. It's pretty much pick one of them and hope you guess right and hope they connect. They're cheap enough where you're gonna have plenty of room. It's not like they need 100 yards and a touchdown or anything like that. 1 or 2 big plays and you'll be there.
Yep, pretty much. By the way, Devin Funchess, a healthy scratch. Xavier Howard out for the Dolphins as we expected. That definitely doesn't hurt Robert Foster. We've also got Cutie is out. So DeAndre Hopkins, is the only known receiver there. And Leonard Fournette is also inactive. Devontae Adams, here it comes, is inactive. Oh, my God, Ben. Here we go. Here we go, my friend.
Week 17. Yep.
Oh, boy. Well, so Devontae, what's that?
MVS, I'm going to have a lot of him.
Yep. Well, Alvin Kamara is inactive. Now I'm just waiting to see if Rodgers is going to play the full game. I don't even
That's
know now.
good point too. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Well,
Not sure if you guys said it, but Galladay as well.
Yeah, Galladay. Oh, Drew Brees. We know he's inactive. Is Galladay out? Confirmed?
Coming from Dave
I haven't seen
Burkett,
that
who's
yet.
the Lions beat writer for the Detroit Free Press.
Okay.
imagine
All
that
right.
receiving core. Who is
Yeah.
left? Who's left for the Lions? Do they have anybody?
I don't know, but the Packers defense becomes mighty appealing now. I can tell you that much.
What's Charles Rogers up to nowadays?
Yeah, I can tell you. I guarantee I know what he's doing today. Same he was doing when he was in the NFL.
Church?
Yeah, sure. Chris Lacey. That's a person who's eligible to be wide receiver on DraftKings. Actually, I know I joke and I say I've never heard of that name. I've never heard of that person in my life.
Neither have I. No, neither have I.
Chris
Absolutely
Lacey.
not.
Well,
So as the news rolls in, we'll be sure to give it to you. But for now, Ben, I guess we have no choice but to move on.
yeah. No, I mean, we'll keep going. It's this is going to be a wild one, and we kind of anticipated this. This is why it's a very challenging week.
It really is. It really, really is. Where were we here? Okay, Seattle and Arizona. Let's talk about it before we get some wild news here. Now, mind you, most of the news that we're getting now, if not all of it, is going to be for these 1 p.m. games. Fortunately, and bear this in mind, this is important. There are many teams that still have something to play for, whether it be Kansas City, Minnesota, Chicago to some extent, Pittsburgh, Chargers, Rams. San Francisco already has a million injuries, so we know what's going on there. Seattle is pretty much locked into a 5 or 6 seed. But most of these 4 p.m. games, the Eagles have something to play for. Baltimore, Cleveland's clearly playing for pride. Most of this wave of 4 p.m. games, Ben, we know that they will be starting their starters and playing them for the duration of the game.
It's true. Yeah. I like the way they do it. They put the matchups together kind of like soccer. So teams aren't going to know, maybe at halftime, but for the most part, everyone will be playing straight up, and that alleviates some of the concern.
Right. Yep. Flexing these games out to the 4 o'clock hour is really important, especially to get any semblance of sanity here. So let's move to the 4 o'clock wave of games. Way more 4 o'clock games than any week on the year. Seattle and Arizona. Seattle, massive favorites here, which should also not come as any surprise. Right now, you're looking at the Seattle Seahawks as 14-point favorites, Ben. To me, and then I'll toss it over to you. The only guy that I would consider in this game, and even his prices come up a bit despite how good he's been and how much they're running the ball, would be Chris Carson. And I don't think I have anybody else I'm interested in. Maybe we're on different pages.
No, I look to Carson, but and again, we don't really have clarification. I think he sees a severely reduced workload against a team like this.
And Penny's back too. That's
what I'm saying.
Right. So I'm saying if there was anyone that I would even consider at all, it would be Carson. And even at his price it could be very difficult. This game's pretty much a wash for me.
It's a wash. I like Seattle's defense at home against Rosen.
Sure.
I think regardless if they start taking people out, the Cardinals just have no offensive line. It's just working to pick on whether it's Mike Glennon or Josh Rosen. I'm going to continue to do that. But other than that, I really do think that Seattle's one of the teams that treats it like that preseason game where the guys get out there in the first half, they do a little work, and then they slowly pack it in and prepare for next week.
Yeah, I think you're right here. And really, what upside? The thing is, even if they didn't rest the starters, it's such a low volume passing attack that it's tough for me on a week with so many games to bank on Lockett catching one of his 3 targets for a touchdown.
Even if the Seahawks were playing for real, the only guy that I would be playing, I would play Chris Carson. I like that spot.
Right, exactly.
Right. I don't think the passing attack is good regardless if they're out there. I don't think they will be, but that's not even the point. It's not a great spot altogether.
Right.
Yep.
And I think that puts us in line to move on here. Unless, of course, you have anything else on this.
I can't say I'm going to the Cardinals this week. That's not a good situation. Don't go there.
No, I don't think you want to take that risk. To
Nope.
me, there are just better spots that you can go without having to worry about facing one of the best or a vastly improved defense. Let me say that much. A vastly improved defense. All right, let's go ahead and keep it moving here, Ben. We've still got a bunch of games to get to. It is a 15-game slate. The next one on the docket is going to be Rams at home against San Francisco. No Todd Gurley. The Rams are 10.5-point favorites. Has that number come down, or were they 10.5-point favorites to begin with? Let me see. I have the spread from yesterday. The Rams were, where is it? Okay, so it's the same as it was. Yeah, I thought it was lower because San Francisco's down so many damn players. Let's just start with CJ Anderson here. What do you do with a guy like Anderson, who had a massive workload last game? We didn't know what we were going to get from him. We didn't know if he was in shape or if he could even look decent, but good run blocking, gave him 167 yards on 20 carries. I mean, he was featured in this game, and it seems like, we could see more of that today. Do you pay for him though?
I get it because, even though the Rams, they need to win this game, they're going to win this game. They're not worried about running CJ Anderson, obviously, into the ground. They don't need him.
Yep.
So they can give him as many carries as they want. It's not important. So he's firmly in play. I don't mind it. I still like Sony Michel better than him. I'll be honest. I think that's just a better spot for me, but there's no doubt.
And Anderson wasn't involved in the passing game either, so it's not like one of them was. If he was, it would change my opinion.
Right with you. I think they're relatively the same in terms of what you need to get there, and he's a good play. This is a game that I do like. Obviously, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, guys I will be targeting. I like Woods better for what it's worth. Gerald Everett is a very cheap tight end who's seeing targets that certainly justify a sub 3K price tag. So you could go there. And then on the other side, for me, you mentioned it. The Niners are just, everybody got hurt. So you've got Jeff Wilson, Kendrick Bourne, and obviously Kittle as weapons that are, in my opinion, cheap enough in a game they'll be playing from behind that you can sprinkle into your lineups, no doubt about it.
Yeah. What do you make of like Kendrick Bourne here with Pettis out, obviously Garcon out, Marcus Goodwin out. We got another. Who else is out? Breida, Pettis, Goodwin, and Breida are all out.
I like that guy. I think he's out. He should be Kittle will be the number one target, but in terms of the receivers, I think Bourne would probably be the guy. And, what's been holding him back is, I think, more volume related than anything else. If he gets his chance today, I think he responds. But Jeff Wilson for cash is kind of more my priority.
Right, and I think that's the right call. By the way, if you haven't seen it and you don't know, how many yards do you think George Kittle has this year receiving?
Well, I've seen it. It's a lot.
Okay.
He's going for the record along with Kelsey.
Is that incredible or what?
He's had a monster. He could have had truly one of the greatest weeks ever. Not that it wasn't a huge week, but that week where he had like 200 yards in the first half.
Yeah.
0.
Did you know Shanahan apologized to him for that, for not making sure he would get the record?
Yeah, it seemed like a sure thing at the time, and obviously.
Well, is he going to try and make up for it this week? Get him above Rob Gronkowski?
I mean, they have such limited. He's going to see a lot of work. It's Kittle's one of my favorite. I mean, he's expensive, but for good reason. I definitely like him on the slate.
I went so heavy on Kittle when he came into the league in my dynasty drafts because he was such a good blocker that you knew he could play every snap for an NFL team and had some receiving abilities. I didn't know it would be this good though. The guy has 1,228 receiving yards. It's really phenomenal, man. He's been awesome. And him and Travis Kelce are two guys that I absolutely love today. Both of them gunning for that record, Ben.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're both could pass Gronk. So I it's hard not to like those spots. They pretty much check all the boxes of what you want.
Yep. I just want to go back. I think you make a really good point on Anderson, though, that they have no worries about running him into the ground. My guess is if this was a really important game, Todd Gurley would probably play.
No doubt about it.
Or even maybe last week where they were massive favorites and won with ease. Like, it really seems that way. Why, let's rest him to get him perfectly healthy into the playoffs. We can run Anderson into the ground. He'll be happy to do so to maybe get himself on an NFL roster next season. It's a win-win for everyone, right? And I don't see Anderson coming out in the fourth quarter or in the second half. I think they just run him into the ground, and I'm cool with that. What I need to ask, though, is you mentioned Everett. If you did mention this next player, stop me. I was reading chat. Robert Woods has kind of been the go-to guy since Cooper Kupp went down. Do you think Robert Woods is someone that comes into play for you today?
For sure. Yeah, he's, him and Cooks, obviously, you can always look to, but I prioritized Woods when I was going there. He's a guy they get him involved in all different ways. And without Gurley, he really seems to be taking on, the lead of that offense. So he's in a good spot against a bad Niners defense.
Yep. Yeah, it's a Rams spot where there are a few guys I'm going to. Anderson, it would be my favorite just because I don't think he really runs any true risk of being yanked, regardless of score. So I like that. An interesting game, though, because of these injuries. And I think we covered it. Anyone else?
No, that's pretty. It's a good game. Like I said, there's a lot of moving parts, but I think you can target both sides pretty freely and feel good about what you're getting.
Yeah, I do. I think so as well. And I do think there'll be a few guys in this game that are pretty low owned. Like I believe Woods and Kendrick Bourne, obviously a big risk, but I think you'll get some low ownership on some of these guys for sure. Let's talk about the Chargers and Broncos. This game in Denver. I think Vance Joseph's job has already come and gone, but here they are playing the last game of the season. Nothing to play for. They're 7-point dogs at home. I don't know if there's anyone for the Broncos that I'm on board with. I know Royce Freeman should get a lot of work, but I don't think he'll be involved in the passing game. I think Devontae Booker probably sees the majority of that work. But I don't know. Do you look to somebody like Royce at that price point or Booker or anyone on this offense for Denver?
If I was making more teams, if I made 100 teams, I would have some flyers on these guys. I think they're playable, but I'm not. I'm only making maybe like 10 to 15 teams today. I don't think I'm going to get there. Booker, they're going to see a bump. He's basically the min. I like him over a guy like Washington. Not going to lie about that. But at the same time, this Denver team is just bad. I know they're home. It still doesn't affect much. They're one of those teams. It's week 17. I think they want to just get done. Maybe their running backs, certainly not playing receiver roulette. It's bad enough when they're on showdown that you have to do that. So these are guys that with the number of other cheap running backs, I don't think it's necessary to really target.
I agree with that, by the way. It doesn't seem necessary whatsoever. Royce Freeman is totally touchdown dependent, and Devontae Booker, I don't know what you're going to get from him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all right fading that spot for sure, fading Denver as a whole. And plus, the Chargers' pass defense is good enough to where I don't really see the need to take a risk. Maybe a Deshaun Hamilton is interesting. You can get big plays in the middle of the field against this Chargers team, but he's still too expensive for me to pay for. If he was cheaper, I'd be interested, but that's a bit pricey for me. On the other side, though, talk to me about Melvin and Keenan Allen.
So, and maybe I'm off base here. I think that the Chargers are going to call off the dogs when they see the Chiefs up by like 50. And I know that's a couple if statements in there, but Melvin Gordon and Keenan Allen if they were fine, I would say, you know what, they'll just have them play and whatnot. But these guys are both coming off Melvin Gordon, decently serious injury, and Keenan Allen got hurt, with the hip. I wouldn't be stunned to say, you know what, we have to play because it's, if they don't get the 1, they're getting the 5.
Yep.
They got to play. They're going to have a game next week. I don't know why they're going to be trying to beat up on the Broncos when the Chiefs are up 30 points in that second half. So I don't have either of them.
Right. The AFC is kind of muddled. Like the Chiefs can move. Like the Chiefs will lose a tiebreaker for first to the Patriots if So there's a bunch of different. I'm reading it now too. I looked at it earlier, but the playoff picture is still muddled. There's still a lot in flux and a lot of moving parts. But yeah, if Kansas City goes up by a lot early, I think you're right. I don't see there being really any reason at all that Anthony Lynn would keep his top guys in, who, as you mentioned, are not, as we know, at peak health right now going into the playoffs. So I'm with you.
Yeah, the Chargers are one of the every team could use the bye, but man, would they have benefited? And I don't think they're going to get it, obviously. So if they're not, I know I'm thinking a lot of things. There's a chance they play the Ravens. That's no joke. Like, you don't want to be messing around. And I think it's the Raiders at the Chiefs that he's got to be already thinking, all right, I'll keep an eye on that game, and then we'll go from there, depending on what we need to do.
Yeah, and Baltimore just spanked the Chargers in LA. In the off chance that Kansas City's game is like remotely competitive, or that Anthony Lynn just says, you know what, we're going to play our starters throughout, I think Melvin and Keenan could smash. So keep that in mind, right? Just this is a pretty appealing spot, right? I mean,
no doubt.
Chris Harris is on the IR. So Keenan Allen, man, he's going to have a very easy time producing. And then Melvin Gordon, the Broncos run defense, they've just stopped playing recently. So it's tough for me, but I definitely do still see a way that they could put up huge numbers here.
The matchup is not what's obviously, I know you know this. I'm not deterred by the matchup or them. It's more, they're looking big picture, and they may say, you know what, let's ease these guys back because we're going to be stuck at the 5. It's not like they can get. Unfortunately, they're in the wrong division this year with the Chiefs.
Yep. Jay Kelly says, just saying, taking it easy and resting guys in the second half, if you quote unquote think the other team's going to win, can easily get you fired if the other team comes back to win. Not likely, but would you rather take that risk as a head coach? Well, I think what Ben's saying is if they're up by like 25 in the first half, I mean, the Raiders aren't beating the Chiefs.
It's not going to happen. Plus, it's the Broncos. Like, it's not like the Chargers are in a dogfight. They might be in full control. So, like, even if the Chiefs game is close, if the Chargers are up by 3 touchdowns, they're going to call off the dogs for that reason. There's just a couple ways where these guys don't see the field late because of games being out of hand. That's all.
Plus, we're just trying to play out all the possible scenarios for you as the viewer so you can make your own decisions, because you're going to need to make your own decisions on this slate. Risk tolerance is a big thing.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. If you say, you know what, people like me are going to be scared away of this. I like the Chargers. I'm going to target them. You may get good ownership. It's just about, do you want to see them both have good first halves and not come out for the second half? That's going to be a real factor, possibly.
Antonio Gates needs 31 catches and or 4 touchdown catches this season for the $1.25 million bonus. So there you go. He's 3 catches and 2 touchdowns away versus the Broncos. So there you go. There's a narrative for you. We know how they tried to force him the ball before to get him those touchdowns.
Gates. Yeah, I mean, this obviously, I'm going to have to go back and adjust some. That Packers news, that threw me for a whirlwind. Huge. Yeah. Changes the entire slate.
It does. Valdez-Scantling is definitely a good play. No doubt about it. But we'll speed it up here and get through this. There's 2 games that we won't really need to talk much about, but this one's not one of them. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. We still don't. Our boy Karl Marx said that Antonio Brown is playing. I haven't seen confirmation on that though. So
no, neither have I. I have no. We're gonna have to wait and see. I think he's gonna test it in pregame warmups. They need the game for sure, but I don't know if they need him to get it.
I'm seeing that he's feeling better this morning, but they hope that he'll play. Even if he does, I think this is still a spot where he's not used at full capacity. I don't think he'll need to be. I don't think James Conner is at full health. I love Juju today. The only question here is ownership.
Juju's becomes, he's a cash lock if AB sits. And, the other guys, it's a risk tolerance thing. Obviously, I wrote an article earlier in the week. Antonio Brown was in it. I did not know he was hurt, so softening my stance there. Clearly, if he's limited, It's not a great play. But the Steelers have a dream matchup, like most of these teams. They're at home against a garbage Bengals side, so they should do their part. They need help, though. They need the Ravens to lose to get in the playoffs.
Yep. They have totally blown it this year, man.
They don't deserve to
Unbelievable
get in.
meltdowns. Unbelievable meltdowns from Juju, from Ben against Denver, from the defense on the final drive. It's been a horrible season for Pittsburgh in terms of blowing games. They could legitimately be like 13-3 to end the season, but they're 8-6-1 right now. Anyway, Ben, it's Juju for me. Outside of that, I'm not risking the backfield. We know that they want to keep Jalen Samuels involved, and I expect it to be heavily in the passing game, even if Connor's healthy. Brown, I'm not playing with those concerns, even though he's a beast. It's Juju for me here, and maybe a sprinkle of Vance McDonald, but that's about it. Do you have anyone else in this game?
No, not really. I wanted to target Connor and Antonio Brown, but it's going to be, if I do, it's going to be maybe just a dart throw or two because we have serious concerns about workload and health.
Right. For sure. I mean, it's very possible that Brown still doesn't play. Maybe Connor does, and he's very limited because, again, they could beat Cincinnati with their second unit.
Yep. No, it's not a great game. I didn't even I thought I would get to some run back with Joe Mixon. I ultimately didn't.
Yeah. Neither did I. You can't right now. That just the game script, even though he's seeing so many attempts, even when they're playing heavily from behind, I think there are better spots here. It's a deep slate at running back. Let's talk about Minnesota and Chicago. Minnesota win and get in. Must win game for them. Must win game. This is what they are. If there's one team in dire straits, you could say the Eagles too, but the Vikings more so because they control their own destiny. They are, I think last I looked, 4.5 they're 6-point favorites now, so it's moved even more in their favor. I have one player from this game. It's going to be Stefon Diggs. Maybe you can make an argument for Dalvin Cook if Chicago takes their starters out, but it is a difficult run game matchup. What do you got on this one, Ben?
I went pretty aggressive in this. I like the Vikings a lot. I hit them at 4.5. I'm happy about that. I think they blow the doors off the Bears in this spot, and it's partly because if they win, they're going to see the Bears next week, and I have a feeling the Bears are going to just be very vanilla and say, we'll see them at Soldier Field. We're not going to, especially if they get off to a rocky start. So I have some Cousins. I have some Thielen. I have a lot of Vikings defense against Trubisky. Maybe even against, dare I say, Chase Daniels. I wouldn't be stunned in the second half to see him because what the Bears need is the Rams to lose, and then they need to win. The chances of that happening are very, very low. So I don't think there's much incentive. We just saw Allen Robinson's not playing, I believe. He's hurt. I have a feeling the Bears err on the side of caution in this one, and it opens the door, unfortunately for you, for the Vikings to get in.
Yeah, look, we won a Super Bowl last year. We blew it this year. We're another team that could have had a lot more wins and blew 17-point leads in the fourth quarter. When you lose like that, you don't deserve to get in, I'll tell you that much. But hey, Nick Foles has been a stud lately, has he not?
He's pretty good.
Yeah, it's been pretty wild to see what he's done. So it's been at least been a fun last 2 weeks. Knowing that like we're still playing for something and still playing for something, and what's that?
I said there's always a chance for sure. It's nice to still be live.
Exactly. After beating the Rams. So that's all. It gives you something to root for. But we know our chances are slim to none. Slim. We're not getting in. Chiefs and Oakland. I think we can make pretty quick work of this game. The Chiefs are 14.5-point favorites. Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek Hill. Floor is yours. I love all of them.
All of them. Mahomes, even me, I'm using him. I never use that guy. I feel like he's just the best play on the slate. For quarterbacks, they should bomb the Raiders, who are playing somewhat better. And yeah, I think if you can afford them, load on up on the other side real quick for me. Guy like Jordy Nelson, guy like Jalen Richard. I don't mind it if you want to try to balance it out a little. But this is a game where the Chiefs need to win, and they're at home. There should be no problem with them just hanging 35, 40 points.
Yeah. Low estimate. Jordy Nelson would be my guy.
Okay.
Jordy Nelson would be the guy on the other side. I'm saying if I was running it back with somebody, it would be Jordy Nelson for me. And I think this is a good enough spot for Jordy Nelson. And by the way, the Chiefs are a way better defense at home, just so we're clear, like a way better defense. at home. But I'm still more interested in if running it back. Jordy Nelson would be the guy here, and I think that you have enough upside here because he's the Carr trusts him the most, and he's at least seeing a ton of targets each week, right? 10, 8, 7, 11 over his last 4. That's not bad. He could sneak into the end zone. He's cheap enough, but that's about it, Ben. And it's really just because I'd be looking to run it back with someone if I'm loading up on Chiefs.
Yeah,
I'm not targeting any running backs in the Chiefs backfield. Are you?
not really. I may take a stab with Damian Williams if we get word that Spencer Ware is seeing reduced. It's just a tough spot. Clearly, the passing game is where you want to go, and you just got to hope that Tyreek Hill. I'll say real quick, and I know I'm harping on this. It was a 1-game sample size. The first time they played the Raiders, Travis Kelce exploded, but Tyreek Hill had multiple chances at 70-yard touchdowns, and Mahomes missed them twice. He dropped one. It could have been a totally different situation with the game logs. And, I think that it's something to note. This is a really good matchup for Tyreek if he's healthy.
No question. Baltimore, Cleveland. I'll toss it to you. Not a game I have interest in. I just don't want to play anyone from this game. I don't think it's necessary. Do you have anyone here?
No, I don't. I will say it's a pseudo hot take, and I'm not in love with it, but I think the Browns give them all they can handle. I wouldn't be shocked for the Steelers to find a way in by the Browns winning this game.
If you want to talk about a team playing for pride, it's absolutely Cleveland because they can finish above 500 for the first time since the 18th century. I mean, this is a spot where they are absolutely going to play to win. They're playing like this is a playoff game. I 100% believe that.
Yep. Oh, the motivation is not more for Baltimore in this game. I know that sounds ridiculous, but Baltimore knows what they need to do, and the Browns are playing as if it's their game season is on the line. So it's going to be
Baltimore's still a dominant defense. Let me move on, Ben. We only have a minute here. Washington and Philadelphia. Philly needs to win this game. They should. Do you have any interest in this game? I'll let you close it out.
I really don't, to be honest. You can always go to Zach Ertz. We saw last week how good he is. Alshon, if you want to be different, he's right in Robbie Anderson's price range. But overall, this is just a game that I think it's relatively low scoring. People may chase the Nick Foles stuff from last week. And I just found myself kind of going elsewhere, especially with some of the value that's now opened up.
Me too. Alshon is my guy.
Okay.
If I'm going anywhere here, it would be Alshon. And that's about it. That's about it. I don't think you need to go Foles here. Even though I wouldn't be surprised if he has a relatively tough game. By the way, check out awesemo.com and use the promo code GamePlanShow, all one word, GamePlanShow, all one word when you sign up, and you'll get a free week of Awesemo content. When you sign up, select the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. Use the code when you check out, 100% free for the week. You get to check everything before you buy it. That's GamePlanShow at awesemo.com. Use it one word as the promo code. Good luck today. And by the way, check out yahoo.com and use the promo code Awesemo for a $30 deposit bonus on $30 or more deposit. Good luck today. Have a great week 17. Live Before Lock coming up next with Chris and Josh. We'll see you back here in the postseason.